Me again, this is the 12th of October. So it happens that every time it becomes more difficult to speak. So this technology changes the words that I'm supposed to say, but besides that, I'm fighting the medication. So I'm being attacked by the new weapons. It changed my words, especially in English. So when I speak in these videos, people who have seen me on the street, let's say when I play beach tennis, etc., will be so surprised to see that my accent changes, or will notice that I could speak a little bit more clearer, clearly. But it becomes super difficult whilst being attacked by neuroweapons. These neuroweapons has become so sophisticated that it's extremely difficult to recognize, especially feeling, being neuro-aware when an attack is done electromagnetically, because it can target so specific parts of the brain that you have to be extremely aware of what you want to say to not allow the neuroweapons to push that um, neural network or to change your words, etc. So if my words are changed, then it means that I have no political life. The political life only can happen in the real world. Me speaking with people, me with the freedom of association, me with freedom of mobility. The political life only can happen in the real life. And that's the place in which we can, let's say, discuss, give speeches. Is, let's say, when I sent that report to the Australian Federal Police, I should have been taken into account, not sent straight to the hospital. Then we are talking about psychiatric police, or not psychiatric prison. Plus, this is a thought police, because as many other target individuals, they talk about, yeah, they they can try to modulate or to know exactly what you are thinking. I know that it's not 100% precise just because everyone thinks differently, but at least everything that you pronounce in your brain or pronounce, even speaking, must have super accuracy. But other kind of thoughts, images, etc., might have lesser definition, but they can be extracted already. So I have no political life in Australia. I know that many people disagree, but I have no freedom whatsoever. I think that I have sacrificed already too much, and this medication is shutting down my skills and going backwards cognitively. But it's because I cannot practice anything. I try to do art, it becomes daunting. I try to do music, it becomes daunting. I try to play video games, it becomes daunting. I try to make these videos, it's very difficult. I try to read, it's very difficult. I do sports as much as I can, but I cannot do as much as before in the other medication. I'm not even talking when I was in paliperidone that I was totally disabled. So we are talking about a regime of the normalization. But remember, I was attacked initially because they tried to mind control me to do attacks against society. This is a kind of, they mind control people, so they do terrorism. Yeah? And then they change laws, and then they send the armies to fight, and then they excuse whatever they want to do by mind controlling people with AI. Look, if you are an engineer, this is not sophisticated. This is not sophisticated. This is not magic. You have AI. You have the electromagnetic wave. So you have AI, and if you are surprised what AI can do with words, your mind is simply in the position to understand what it can do with electromagnetism. Because with AI and electromagnetism, you can change the micro voltages of every single being that uses electromagnetic means in its system as a system of nervous communication or body communication, whatever. So then I cannot do much. I cannot do much. It's difficult with this medication. It castrates you sexually, emotionally, cognitively, and normalized. What they call that normalized. That you cannot be someone confident that can create, push through life, make this society better. No. I still be taking medication. I shouldn't be taking that medication. And I cannot get old and say, oh, I could have gone to other country and then see if I will be free. So I have to do that. It's a must in my life. But the situation is becoming more difficult because freedom of movement has been hindered already in Australia for me. Remember that this is a modern kidnap. It is a modern kidnap. Remember that they gave an aneurysm to my ex-girlfriend and then they locked me up in the mental health hospital. But at that time, in 2018, I knew it was a kind of now they wants me to push another word that I don't want to say because I never consent to those words. So they locked me in the hospital, but I knew it was a but as soon as they put me the medication, the voices just went off. I continue recovering, quotes, but the voices were not there as long as I take the medication. The bombs in Lebanon explode, those 3,000 pagers, and the voices came back immediately. Nothing has changed in my medication. I always was attached to my medication, and then I rediscovered, oh fuck, this is AI. So I've been taking all these years medication for nothing. It's just that they could not control my mind for 2 years continuously to be violent towards people because my framework of thought is about radical humanism. It's about the otherness. It's about I see the others as they are. No one needs acceptance from me. No one needs validation from me because they already are. So I see them as they are and I accept them as they are. Not everyone has that knowledge. Not everyone has that compassion. Not everyone will have that kind of emotional and soul endurance because not many people had the opportunity to think. I was lucky to have a space in my youth in which I was able to read and to think, for which maybe that was the problem. The readings, the knowledge was the reason why I was targeted. Okay? And then I know that many people do not want myself to be as a failure. But Australia is in a really, really difficult position Because what's the army of Australia? It comes from the Commonwealth. It's conformed by Australians. They go to wars far away from here, but the main defense partner is United States. So they are just draw and drag wherever United States goes. And United States has fought a lot of wars outside United States and lose most of those wars. Whether they like it or not, maybe in United States the history is different because we are in the multipolar war. In United States, they say that they won Vietnam, they won Afghanistan, they won Iraq, what you name it, they won it. But that's not the reality what I see. And Australia is in a different position because the headquarters of the whatever is the Commonwealth is in UK. So you have one rope pulling from UK, one rope pulling from United States, and one rope as well that will be the main emotion. Well, they doesn't allow me to say the main. Let's say the biggest hegemon. Okay, no, well, the main hegemon is China. And if I, in the past, if I would have been mind controlled to attack people, there were photos of me supporting Palestine, supporting Venezuela when when there was some mercenaries sent by United States. I disagree that to those foreign interventions, regardless of the dictatorship that is happening in Venezuela, the intelligence services did not acknowledge that in that group that was supporting Venezuela, I was the only one telling everyone else that we should be critics of Maduro. We should be critics of Maduro. We cannot simply be 100% supporters on that, regardless of what's happening there. And that's the problem. So in what time, where we are in history, it is important to recognize. I could sacrifice more, but I won't win anything, and I don't want to win everything. I want just to recover my human basic rights. When you are in a system, you have to contribute to a system. And that's why a system has rules. And I follow every single rule. Yet, I was kidnapped, I was abused, they tried to mind control me, I was put in really difficult situations. And defense is not the only way in which you can contribute to a system. You can contribute to a system culturally, politically, technologically, with work, with ideas, with labor, with caring, with fostering relationships among diaspora, with practicing the democratic values, with practicing truth. So a country is its army and way more than that. Yeah. So I was going through one of the books of Anna Arendt, and I find it thrilling because it's not as complex as many other books. So I thought that I could just start to read it in the camera and comment on the book. One of the situations that happen is that I'm not allowed to read as before. And even if I'm allowed to concentrate for periods of time that are very short, a few seconds, it's super difficult to find a flow. It's super difficult to find serotonin, reward, to keep going, because this medication, again, kind of blocks you cognitively, sexually, emotionally, yeah, physically. So this is the psychiatric prison. It's the psychiatric prison. That's what it is. And I know that many people disagree with what's happening to me. But as I say, I can sacrifice everything. I won't change anything. Everyone has to sacrifice something if they want something back. If not, I don't think that sacrificing is the solution. I want to live. Some people think that dying is the solution. It's easy to dare to die. It's difficult to dare to live.
The most important of these changes. The distinction
Okay, so I'm just gonna start to go through the book. Yeah. So as I have to use one of these programs because I cannot taste the book. So I want to really, it becomes more difficult to read. But it's because I'm taking too much medication. In 2018, they put me so much medication that I was a vegetable for almost 10 months. That's inhuman. That should not be happening. And it's not an accident, because they push it and push it and push it and push it. And the first neurocognitive attacks, the first remote electroshocks happened to me when I was 23. Okay, was 2015. And this happened for no reason. But I didn't know that I was receiving electroshocks. And these electroshocks would happen in my work. I remember the day that I was having electroshocks at work. That was the day when someone stole my iPhone 5 and my IDs from Colombia were stolen. I have not recovered my IDs since then. I'm gonna have nowadays it doesn't allow me, but I have a schedule in the Embassy of Colombia. They just to recover my IDs. I know that Colombia cannot do much. It's a poor country. So I have to find another country in which I might be able to live as a human. This is too much. It's every day. These intermissions at night time, in which they push images and they push voice during my sleep, voices and a lot of voices whilst I'm sleeping. These intermissions at nighttime, they shouldn't be happening. As I say, if you are someone who works in AI, you probably sign an NDA, but this is a piece of cake to know that what's happening to me is real. So many people has resigned, get depressed after working in this zone of the AI companies. So many, let's say, electrical engineers, telecommunication engineers, electronic engineers, they know that AI is capable to do this if they have a minimum of knowledge about neuroscience. If you check, if you check my history of books from the libraries there in Sydney, you check my history of books from the library of Sydney and also the library of Rockdale in Sydney, City of Sydney and Rockdale, you will find that there was more than one book of neuroscience that I borrowed. I studied electrical engineering in Colombia. I was not the best student because I never cared about the scores. Yeah. It was only that I started to take care about the scores because simply the scores were everything for precisely accreditation and recognition. It's not about knowledge, it's about the scores. The score is an arbitrary measurement. Doesn't measure or doesn't tell you who you are, but it tells you how you will be perceived. Then I start to achieve with attacks every single day from the neural weapons. I start to achieve these scores in my bachelor, for which I was able to enter to the Australian University and study in the major of national security. Now, Australia finds a conundrum because I don't know who's doing this. Honestly, I don't know who's attacking. I know that locally I'm in the city, but I understand that the world is surrounded by satellites. And you find, yeah, this person that's supposed to be someone who never will participate doing Australian policy because it was deemed, I was deemed someone not desirable in this society. And that's why I was attacked. Because I was a refugee from a third world country who had no degree. I don't know what they thought will be the checklist for being undesirable. But there is a checklist for people who is undesirable. Yeah, it might be people with, let's say, who is participating in low skill jobs, but I didn't know that if you participate in a low skill job, then you become a less desirable person in the society. Or I didn't know that it rests humanity for you. I didn't know. Otherwise, I would have tried to find whatever it gives me more humanity. Yeah, but I didn't know. I didn't know that applying for a refugee visa in Australia would have been so dangerous. But even worse, my refugee visa took 5 years to be granted. And because it was not about to give it, I mean, it was not, my visa was supposed to not be granted. It took too long. They have every single piece of information, evidence, collection of intelligence or information for so long, 5 years. I asked for everything they asked me for. Even the judge asked me for a letter coming, which is very weird, just to coming from my friends from the Communist Party, yet I never participated in the Communist Party. I was interested in the events that they will do because they will invite musicians. They will create meetings in which there will be debates, discussions, art. There will be, sometimes we will print shirts, and it was very interesting to see how that works. I learned to print stencils. The next conversation I will have about the stencils would be with a masters of arts who became jealous of me knowing how to do stencils. It is a rich environment for knowledge. It was. Sometimes they will do movie sessions, very nice movies, very curated. It's a luxury that Hollywood will never give you nowadays. And I will participate in that, but I will never participate in the Youth Communist Party. It was not even the Communist Party, it was the Youth Communist Party. So then at that time, the Youth Communist Party and the Communist Party was underground because the false positive, the government killed like 50,000 people, so they appear as communists, as guerrilla fighters. My friends, they were not belligerent. As far as I know, they never took a gun. They were not supporting the guerrillas. They were more maybe ideological inclined to what will be Marxism. I think they like something about Trotsky, but I don't know shit about Trotsky. Okay? I probably saw one or two documentaries, but if you ask me, you know something about Trotsky? I know something about many people in history. Yeah? It doesn't define me what you pick up as evidence to say that I am undesirable in society. And I talked about this stuff before. But there is a checklist for make you undesirable in society. And if you complete that checklist, you are very likely to be in the target individual or someone who will be attacked with neurological weapons. Yeah. So if you are a refugee, that might be a tick. If you are someone who works in a low skill job, that's a tick. If you are someone who comes from a third world country, that's a tick. That's part of the checklist. If you are someone who has maybe red marks or something like that, you are very likely, you are inclined to left wing, as you believe that most of the people most of the people has good nature, and you believe that most of the people should live with better conditions. If you are not the person who believes that you deserve what you have, but you are the person who understands that you have what you have is luck, because depending on where you were born, yeah, so people were born with a lot of properties, money, going to the best schools, yet they think that having that cultural capital has been in their genes forever, and they don't acknowledge that simply they grew up in that environment, and it's just the nurture of the environment that allows them to have that knowledge. It's not because they sat down to they sat down in the middle of the nowhere in Africa where there is no schools, yeah, to learn what they know. No, no one, no brain comes with information. It was the environment. Then, yeah, so being poor is one of the markers. Being a refugee is potentially being black. Yeah, potentially being Latino, being from a third world country could be. If you are, if you have no degree, etc., it makes you a target. If you have take drugs, it's not if you do drugs. If you have ever take drugs, it makes you a target. Have you ever take drugs? It makes you a target. Because I used to not be a drug addict. I never was a drug addict. I was not taking drug in daily basis, but I was curious to taste what drugs would do. Yeah, let's say I never took a whole paper of one of those drugs. I always took a quarter, and I did it once. If I was given a pill, I will not take the same drug twice. I will never take more than one pill. I will take just a little bit, just to see what it does. Because it's part of the human condition to explore what is to be a human. But if you try to be a human, you try to explore, okay, I'm conscious, I'm here, let's see what the hell this world has to offer. Yeah? Let's speak with this person who speaks a different language than me. Let's go there. I don't know, it's a place that I don't know. Let's work in construction as one of the main, it's like you have someone like Enrique Dussel, who is one of the main philosophers in Latin America. He worked in construction in Israel, in the Arab world. He went there and worked in construction as a backpacker. He went there in the middle of a war. Cool. One of the main philosophers of Korea, this super philosopher who talks about modernity, can't remember his name, is well known because he used to work in construction. He used to be a welder. But in some places, they know that I was working in construction and I was listening to a hell lot of podcasts. Hours, hundreds of hours of podcasts. Learning. I was not losing the time. I was enriching my body, enriching my mind, and enriching my pocket because I was earning money. Always with my earphones on. If I was not listening a podcast, I was listening music. But they say it's just a label. It's just someone uneducated. It's someone who earns less than me is someone who does a less skilled job than me, is someone who is in a position in society lower than me. But they don't see, oh, this guy is hearing, I don't know, an Oxford lecture that not even myself can understand. This guy is listening to a panel of the Oxford University, and he knows every single one of the speakers, and I cannot recognize one speaker. This guy speaks English as one of those lectures, as a kind of educated language, and I will make his English just a slur because I want to attack his speech so he doesn't look smart. He cannot be smart. He is poor, a refugee, Latino, he has no degree. He comes from a third world country. Yeah, he has no degree, etc. He has all the tics. He cannot be accepted. And it's becoming more difficult with those neural weapons. It's becoming more difficult with this medication. So the psychiatric prison is already a prison because you are with the medication. Then you have the neural weapons as another prison. And I would like to believe that the convicts in Australia did not inherit a sentence generationally, because it will be to be in another prison. Okay, let's go with this book.
The distinction conferred by a free city and a prize that bears the name of Lessing are a great honor. I admit that I do not know how I have come to receive it, and also that it has not been altogether easy for me to come to terms with it. In saying this, I can ignore entirely the delicate question of merit. In this very respect, an honor gives us a forcible lesson in modesty, for it implies that it is not for us to judge our own merits as we judge the merits and accomplishments of others. In awards, the world speaks out, and if we accept the award and express our gratitude for it, we can do so only by ignoring ourselves and acting entirely within the framework of our attitude toward the world, toward a world and public to which we owe the space, into which we speak, and in which we are heard. But the honor not only reminds us emphatically of the gratitude we owe the world, it also, to a very high degree, obligates us to it. Since we can always reject the honor, by accepting it we are not only strengthened in our position within the world, but are accepting a kind of commitment to it. That a person appears in public at all, and that the public receives and confirms him, is by one address on accepting the Lessing Prize of the Free City of Hamburg. No means a matter to be taken for granted. Only the genius is driven by his very gifts into public life, and is exempted from any decision of this sort. In his case alone, honors only continue the concord with the world, sound an existing harmony in full publicity, which has arisen independently of all considerations and decisions, independently also of all obligations, as if it were a natural phenomenon erupting into human society. To this phenomenon we can in truth apply what Lessing once said about the man of genius in two of his finest lines of verse, was in bewegt, was ich hem gefielt. Sein glücklicher Geschmack ist der Geschmack der Welt. Nothing in our time is more dubious, it seems to me. Nothing in our time.
Okay, that translates: what moves him moves, what pleases him pleases. His delicious taste is the worst taste.
Nothing in our time is more dubious, it seems to me, than our attitude toward the world. Nothing less to be taken for granted than that concord with what appears in publica which an honor imposes on us, and the existence of which it affirms. In our
Remember that for Anna Arendt was very important that in the space of appearances, when you talk in public, the space in which you go to communicate with others, in the space in which you debate and discuss, that space of appearances, is precisely the space in which you do what you do to be recognized, to have honor, to have serotonin, to live, to be, to expose your beliefs, to compare your beliefs with others. It's in public that this happens. Yeah? It's not in the shadows. That's the point of democracy. And democracy is no joke. A lot of people die to revive democracy in France. Then democracy spread through Europe and United States and the rest of America as a space in which dialogue can happen. And then it's dialogue and debate that creates reality. But if the dialogue happens in the shadows, never becomes reality. It's no history at all. It will never be history. Just become part of the shadow.
In our century, even genius has been able to develop only in conflict with the world and the public realm, although it naturally finds, as it always has done, its own peculiar concord with its audience. But the world...
Genius is something that has been decided to be resonant for most of the people as what it is. So a genius can resemble the public, but the public cannot resemble the genius. Yeah, the genius can appeal to the public, but the public cannot appeal to the genius. Just because genius comes to be a word only to define something that cannot be defined by anything else. But in a special, it doesn't come to have anything special. It's more about not having words for the definition.
In our century, even... But the world and the people who inhabit it are not the same. The world lies between... The world lies between people.
So, yeah, this guy, what is Wolfgram? He wrote what is Stephen Wolfram. That guy might have discovered something more important than Newton and Albert Einstein together. Yet, he's not recognized as a genius, because most of the people cannot understand what he explains. And I think that's one of the solutions for our world. It's part of the singularity. Yeah. This book is one of the cheapest books and one of the most richest books you could ever read. I mean, the exchange of knowledge for value is immense.
The world lies between people, and this in-between much more than men, or even man, is today the object of the greatest concern, and the most obvious upheaval in almost all the countries of the globe. Even where the world is still halfway in order, or is kept halfway in order, the public realm has lost the power of illumination, which was originally part of its very nature.
So when she say the public realm has lost the power of illumination, she talks about the loss of the words losing the power for illumination. It's the kind of words that happen in the public realm. If you don't speak the words that should be spoken in the TV, you will be cancelled. If you speak the wrong words in a TV, you will be cancelled. And that's a monopoly of the media. I think Netanyahu said that now they have to go for TikTok, for X.com, from Facebook. Netanyahu said that that's the next step. And most of the media has a lobby, or most of the media becomes an Israel lobby. And we can see that because of Palestine. It's the biggest catastrophe I see in a life. In my whole life, that's the catastrophe that might define, I hope, because there won't be any other, the catastrophe that will define the only catastrophe that I will live, I hope. Yet, this is not acknowledged in the media because the urgency. This is a kind of Holocaust. When you see that city that was totally obliterated, and you start to think how many bombs were needed for it, you understand that there was no place in Second World War as bombed as Gaza. So maybe Gaza has become, I might be wrong, but maybe Gaza has become one of the most bombed places per square meter in the history of humanity. It might compare with the bombs dropped in Indochina. But what's happening there is precisely a result of the media and the control of the media, and a result of words that never come to the public to illuminate.
More and more people in the countries of the Western world, which since the decline of the ancient world has regarded freedom from politics as one of the basic freedoms, make use of this freedom and have retreated from the world and their obligations within it. This withdrawal from the world need not harm an individual. He may even cultivate great talents to the pomp of genius, and so by a detour be useful to the world again. But with each such retreat, an almost demonstrable loss to the world takes place. What is lost is the specific and usually irreplaceable in between, which should have formed between this individual and his fellow men.
So you could be apolitical, and you can cultivate a lot of skills, but these skills never will flourish if you don't have a relationship with your peers. These skills will go down to history as not making history for your peers.
When we thus consider the real meaning of public honors and prizes under present conditions, it may occur to us that the Hamburg Senate found a solution to the problem rather like that of Columbus's egg, when it decided to link the city's prize with the name of Lessing.
There is a storm. I have to close my. Okay.
For Lessing never felt at home in the world. It then existed, and probably never wanted to, and still, after his own fashion, he always remained committed to it. Special and unique circumstances governed this relationship. The German public was not prepared for him, and as far as I know, never honored him in his lifetime. He himself lacked, according to his own judgment, that happy, natural concord with the world, a combination of merit and good fortune, which both he and Goethe considered the sign of genius. Lessing believed he was indebted to criticism for something that comes very close to genius.
Okay, let's check who is Lessing. Lessing. Seems to be someone from Germany. Okay. German philosopher, dramatist, publicist, and art critic, and a representative of the Enlightenment era. Okay, Goethe was part of the Enlightenment. Okay, he was Aristotle's scholar, and okay, he will. Okay, he will be a man of letters, art, performing arts, poet.
As a man of letters, I shall employ eloquence, precision, and depth in my response. How may I apply my knowledge of literature, arts, and scholarship to serve your current inquiry?
Thank you, Google. Okay, interesting. I'm also kind of theologian. Okay,
He himself.
theologian.
Lessing believed he was indebted to criticism for something that comes very close to genius, but which never quite achieved that natural harmonization with the world in which Fortuna smiles when Virtu appears. All that may have been important enough, but it was not decisive. It almost seems as if at some time he had decided to pay homage to genius, to the man of felicitous taste, but himself to follow those whom he once half-ironically called the wise men who make the pillars of the best known truths shake wherever they let their eyes fall. His attitude toward the world was neither positive nor negative, but radically critical and, in respect to the public realm of his time, completely revolutionary. But it was also an attitude that remained indebted to the world, never left the solid ground of the world, and never went to the extreme of sentimental utopianism. In Lessing the revolutionary, temper was associated with a curious kind of partiality, which clung to concrete details with an exaggerated, almost pedantic carefulness, and gave rise to many misunderstandings.
When you are too critic, there is a problem. Most of the people, when they are faced with one truth that contradicts their reality or contradicts what they believe, they are not open to change their mind. But this is not to say that you are attacking them. They are not ready. They don't have that set of mind of critic, of being having critical thinking. So when they are faced with contradictory information, they feel attacked personally. But when you have that mental habit of being a critic, you can change your mind easy. You learn. And the most beautiful thing about learning is that you must be open to change your mind. If you are not open to change your mind, you will never learn. So it's easy to say, oh, I'm wrong. I will change what I used to believe before for what I will believe now, because I was present with this kind of evidence that now contradicts what I believed before. I feel better. Now I learn because I want to be closer to the truth. I don't want to push my existence just to defend something that I think is what is the truth. If I see something that is not if I see something that is the truth contradicting what I think is the truth, then this is also seen as not having ego. But it's not that you don't have an ego. We all need an ego. But definitely it's because you are able to put aside your ego for certain things. Yeah? So if I'm presented with the truth about this, let's say just recently I found something like this concept of psychoanalysis imposing what should be normality. When I came with that concept facing towards, I believe that psychoanalysis, at least the Erich Fromm current, will not try to homogenize, but will try to present a kind of cure or a kind of view for what is to live a fulfilling life. I was thinking, oh, this might be a kind of normalization, and I was like, holy shit, maybe I had been wrong all this time. But then I start to realize, okay, radical humanism is about accepting the other as it is, with mistakes, with all the wonders and with all the differences, and with all the skills and with all the stupidity. So variety, diversity, is accepted in this view of psychoanalysis. In the Freudian view of psychoanalysis, everything focused on your traumas from your parent, from your mother, and then there is nothing beyond that. You cannot be beyond what your care has been, because everything goes to the core of who your carers or parents were. You cannot change that. And that is a view of psychoanalysis that defines what is normality and what is not normal. And then it becomes homogeneous for every single person. But this is not the view for Erich Fromm. And then when I was presented with the information, I was like, oh, I might need to rethink everything that I learned from Erich Fromm. And then I went through the analysis and I was like, okay, now this makes sense. Now, Erich Fromm still being closer to the truth, because he actually speaks that, let's say, on humanity in dark times, this hotspots of diversity becomes the hotspot of hope. So then this is sociological knowledge. Then sociologically, diversity is secure as well under the radical humanism. And then I was revising that and having an argument to say, okay, what I believe is not wrong for such reasons, etc. But I was confronted with that. And I was like, let's explore. I might have been wrong all this time. It could have been, it was not scary, but I put my ego on the side because I was like, holy shit. All the people I've been talking about this, all the time I spent on this, but I was already predisposed to change my mind. People who is not predisposed to change their mind will say, no, this is impossible, it's not happening, I'm right, you are wrong, etc. Yeah. And when you come as a critical thinker, you don't have to face the truth. It's others that has to face the truth. You don't have to deal with the feelings of others. It's others who have to deal with their own feelings. It's others who have to deal with the facts and the feelings and emotions that those facts wake up on them. Then you are perceived as, what the fuck is this person? Yeah, because it's just a few people who have achieved that, and when you could achieve that, it's noticeable. It's impossible to not notice it. Yeah, and eventually even more in the age of surveillance capitalism.
One component of Lessing's greatness was the fact that he never allowed supposed objectivity to cause him to lose sight of the real relationship to the world and the real status in the world of the things or men he attacked or praised. That did not help his credit in Germany, where the true nature of criticism is less well understood than elsewhere. It was hard for the Germans to grasp that justice has little to do with objectivity in the ordinary sense. Lessing never made his peace with the world in which he lived. He enjoyed challenging prejudices and telling the truth to
I have to live there because I have to make the videos smaller than 1 hour.